Hi, welcome to today's call. My name is Miles from Miles Sterling Investing, and I've got a special guest today. Her name is Bev Baker from bevbakerseminars.com. And you definitely want to visit that website, especially after listening to this call today. However, what I'd like to do is just talk to her about what she's got coming up for us and her skill sets and what she's basically an expert in. So Bev, tell us about your area of expertise.
Right, well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's my pleasure to be here. So my area of expertise is helping people to help themselves. My background is in psychology, but on top of that, I love the metaphysical world as well. And that means that I am fascinated by things like mindfulness and hypnosis, tarot card reading, numerology, anything that helps and supports people to make a difference and to live their best life. If it's ethical and it works, I'm interested in it.
I understand that you've been working with a number of pretty influential clients. And I understand one of them might even be a fellow called Bill Gates. Can you tell us about that?
Well, yes, I do work for some big corporations, and the company you're referring to is Microsoft. I've been with Microsoft for 19 years now, and I have trained thousands of engineers across 40 countries. And really, how the Microsoft thing came across, it was that I was lecturing somewhere in Middle England, and a Microsoft manager was on my training, and I have to say I didn't even have a computer. I didn't know what Microsoft was about at that time. However, he seemed to be engaged, and he said, could you come and do some work for us and change some of our ideas into training, into practical tools that people can pick up and run with, courses like managing customer expectations, and I went on to presentation skills training, and pretty much anything that they wanted me to design, I would design, develop, and run the training. And that's it was 19 years ago. So I was around in 2006 when Microsoft opened in Romania. There was me and the country manager and 15 engineers. Now there are over 1,000 engineers in Romania, and I know pretty much all of them. I was involved in Microsoft in Bangalore, in India, and also Bill Gates has a big influence in South Africa, and it was my honor to go to South Africa a couple of times to train people that would never have had the opportunity to have training in life skills if it wasn't for the likes of Bill Gates.
Vozi Thembekweyo, he's a South African, young man, South African entrepreneur from a banking environment. And if you listen to him speak, you would never know he grew up from in a relatively underprivileged situation in maybe a little shack with his mum, and that's it. You would never know that listening to him speak today, because the man is clearly world class in his business acumen and his confidence and thinking. So here's my question. I want you to imagine, someone who grew up in the English environment, from a Caribbean background, who's been programmed to think they were less than. How do they become brilliant?
Well, that's part of what I want to impart, what I want to teach, and what I want people to really get. Now, the first thing is that people start from different places. Some people will have to live through some of the childhood experiences that they've had, where they've been marinated in "you're no good," children should be seen and not heard, all the don'ts, leave that alone, all of the kind of things that we kind of get told and then come to believe. And that can cause anxiety, it can cause depression, it can cause a low self-esteem. And so it's about fixing that and getting people to detangle themselves from negative feelings and thoughts and conditions about who they are. Because it's interesting to me that if we did believe that we were no good and rubbish, then there wouldn't be a problem. But it sounds strange for me to say this, but the fact is that somewhere in our core, we know we're good. We know we're good enough. And this is the internal fight that I come in, and I'm like the referee that wants to kind of break up the fight, right? Because inside we all dream. We all want to have the amazing business. We want to be happy. We want to find the super relationship. And all of that is within our gift. Why is it? Because if some people can do it, that means that we can do it. My thing is, if Richard Branson can do it, then that is the potential. He set the path for everybody to do it. So what is it that Richard Branson has, and anybody that you want to name that is successful in your books? What do they have that others don't have? What is it? What do they tell themselves in the morning? How do they set themselves up for success? So they don't have the negative beliefs. They're not driven by negative thoughts. In fact, they're not driven by thoughts at all. And that's something that I want to talk to people about. If your thoughts are not creating a perfect life for you, what is the purpose of your thoughts? So it's about breaking down those beliefs and the conditions that hold us back. It's about putting good stuff in its place. So if I go back to where people are, people will come to me for an assessment. Really, they've come to the idea that I'm not living my best life. I'm miserable. I'm depressed. Or I know I can do better, but I don't have the tools to enable that to happen. And so that brief assessment first, and then asking people, well, where do you want to go? What do you want to happen in your wildest dreams? What could it be? And then talking to people about some of the tools whereby they bring the future towards them. You know, they bend reality. They change their stars. They predict the future, if you will. They hack their brain and use their brain to its optimum. And taking out the negative will loosen some energy. Thinking about how you use your brain will release some energy as well. So that's my job, I think, on this planet, is to help people to realize their potential.
I got some feedback from very high places who told me that you've been nominated for the National Mentor of the Year Award. Is that true?
It's true, and it came out of the blue, I have to say, but one of my lovely clients nominated me. I know that she turned her life around. She's living her best life, and living your best life does not mean that you're not going to get problems, but it's how everybody gets problems. It's how you manage those problems, which is the key. And there are some ways of doing that. The first thing is to live in the moment. So if you're living in the here and now, you don't have a problem. It's when we live in the past, we have a problem, because we're starting to think about how we could have changed things. We live with regret and resentment. And so living in the past helps no one, because you're helpless. Living in the future, living in the future brings problems, because it creates anxiety, because we think that we have to be able to tick every box. And living in the moment is where you are the most powerful. So actually training your brain not to think and just to deal with what is in front of you is another thing that I can help people to do. So at the moment, what are you thinking right now?
Well, two things. Some thoughts cross my mind based on what you said.
Yes.
But most of the time, I'm actually just paying attention to you.
Right.
I'm not thinking.
And that's exactly where you should be, paying attention, because most of the time we're missing opportunities. We are, and then we start to live in regret. Ideas come, creativity comes in the breeze. I know this sounds a bit poetical, but it does. You got this idea and you think, whoa, okay. And then suddenly you start thinking yourself out of the idea. But can you imagine what would happen if all the creatives thought themselves out of the day, we would never have some of the great songs like Yesterday, the Beatles. Paul McCartney wrote that in 20 minutes. He just said to his colleagues, his mates, I'm just going to go upstairs, I've got an idea, came back with Yesterday, you know, and we have lots and lots and lots of ideas like that, whereby we can talk ourselves out of being a genius. And I want people to realize their genius potential.
As soon as you mentioned that song,
Uh-huh.
a record player in my head put the needle down on the record and it was playing in my mind. And I was listening to the melody and I was listening to the words of that song. And believe it or not, that creates such a powerful emotional response in me, listening to it in my own head. I didn't even play it for real. Why does music make me feel either good or bad or anything? Why does it have an effect on me?
That is such a good question. Music is a higher frequency. And so when we hear music, we connect to our memories, to our emotions, and music can take us wherever it wants to take us. And so when someone's creating, they're already at a high level of consciousness. You could say they're connected to God, they're channeling the angels, you know, you could say that. And so when a musician is playing and he or she is feeling love, and they put that into the sentiment of the song, that's going to create something in you, isn't it? Because when you were at a moment, why do we punctuate significant moments in our life with music? So the music of church, the music of getting married, the music of death, the music of ceremony, it's always punctuated with music because it lifts our spirit. Now, I don't have to tell you what it feels like when you walk into a gospel church and someone's singing their heart out. I mean, that just makes your spirit rise, and that's the intention. So music is, in fact, when people are feeling down and depressed, put on the music, force yourself to move.
That's brilliant. So I understand that you're going to be doing a free, like a webinar. So if we want to come and basically engage with you and get some more of the Bev magic, tell us what you'll be telling us and where can we see that?
All right. So I've chosen to do a webinar on work-life choices, and I hope to be invited to do many more on aspects of new psychology, if you will, because it's an exciting time. We have psychologists, psychiatrists, and new age people, but it's not new age, woo woo woo, you know, hippie type. It's new age, state of the art thinking. So we've got guys like Bruce Lipton, we've got Joe Dispenza, and really Joe Grogan is another guy. Really, guys are coming out with some powerful thought, and it's really about mind, body, and spirit. We used to cut off here, you know, but now it's about how do I integrate the aspects of me so that I can be one person, so I can atone. So in order to get a healthy body, you need a healthy mind. In order to get a healthy mind, you need a healthy spirit. We are mind, body, and spirit. And so for this webinar, I would like to share some of the ideas, the latest thinking in quantum psychology, in new science, putting some of the science together of how the brain works, how it doesn't work. What I want to give people is an idea of their own genius. And I can tell you that it works because I use the techniques on myself. So I know how to switch on my brain, how to really focus, to not even come up for food sometimes because there's something that I need to do and to focus. And I know my brain can do it because I have the same anatomy as Einstein. My brain has the same anatomy as Tesla, Michelangelo, Nelson Mandela. You name any one of those superstars, Bruce Lee, and all of these guys, we have the same anatomy. They just found the way of hacking their brain and using it. And this is what I want to share with the audience.
For those of you who want to see Bev on the webinar, there's going to be a link right below here. And I will certainly hope you come along. I'm certainly going to be there because I can tell you from speaking to Bev before that this woman is filled with magic. This has been Miles in conversation with Bev from bevbakerseminars.com. And Bev, I want to thank you very much for an absolutely fascinating conversation. And we'll see you soon.
It's my pleasure. Namaste.
Namaste.